Urbanna Council of it's March 4th of 2026. It's nice to see a lot of extra smiling faces here this evening. So we have a call to order. I know Beth Justice is going to be late, but we have four here, so we have a quorum. Start with Robbie Wolfson. Here. So Goldsmith is here. Alana Portman. Larry Tuning here. Having quorum. The United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We only have one item on the agenda. Do I need to ask for approval? Okay. That's fine, so we'll move on. This meeting is to introduce and get some explanations and answers, questions answered from Mr. Jeremy Slussel from the engineering firm that we've engaged to try and give us our options and plan what's going on. I know everybody's concerned about the cost that showed up in the paper. That was something that was thrown together at the last minute so that we could get information to the state and feds with a worst case scenario so that we would have numbers that we wouldn't be surprised at the other end if somebody was willing to pick up the funding. And so it doesn't necessarily have, it's a direction, but it doesn't have any total bearing on where we're going or what the different components are. And the reason for this meeting is to start nailing that down so that we can get the bridge replaced and the marina back open. Mr. Cossins, do you want to say anything, or does that cover it? All right. With no further ado, Jeremy, if you'd like to come up and let us know what you guys are about. All right.
Do a presentation. I'll think next when I'm ready for the slide. Thank you for having me here. We're going to talk about the bridge over to the marina. There you go, the next slide. Just tell me a little bit about the firm I work for, Woodman Rackhorn Associates. We have been around for 11 years now. It has not been updated for 2026. We founded in 1915. We have actually over 900 employees now. I'm out of the Richmond, Virginia office. I run the bridge engineering group here in Virginia. We've been doing work in Virginia since 1960 with regards to highway and bridge work. I've been overseeing the bridge group for about 20 years now. We've done a lot of bridges here in the Fredericksburg district, which this is part of. I worked with Annette Adams of the Fredericksburg district bridge office. As a matter of fact, we are currently working on the 695 over Oyster Creek Bridge. You're familiar with that. And then we're also doing the Route 17 bridge over Dragon Run outside Saluda, which should be starting construction maybe the end of this month. So there's just the local bridges that are out there. Next slide, please. So just some quick history. In doing some of my research here, we know that this crossing has been in place for about over 90 years. This is an old aerial photo from 1931 that I found. In the lower photo there, I got zoomed in, and you can see where the marina is. It looks like there was some sort of maybe industrial type facility there before. I'm not too sure what those are, I'll be honest. That road has been there for quite a long time. So there's been some sort of bridge there. And I'm just talking to Robbie before the meeting. I understand this bridge we think was built in the mid-70s is the current iteration that's out there. So when I wrote this up, didn't know where it was. The current bridge is about 24 feet wide, about 16 feet long. And this falls in, just a little bit of a history, that this falls underneath the mandatory bridge safety inspection requirements. That typically requires a minimum of 20-foot bridge. So this falls underneath that. So it's one of those things that, I'd say, fell through the cracks, but it literally fell through the cracks. It just wasn't on anybody's radar to be inspecting over all these years. That's something we can definitely rectify in the future. So, like I said, the other key thing is here, we are not too sure of the foundation that's out there, what's supporting this, but based on the 227 bridge over Urbanna Creek itself, Those piles are anywhere from 80 to 100 feet long. These are going to be very deep foundations when we do go back with a permanent structure, if that is the way that we go. So just kind of give you an idea of what's here. You know, we're right on the Rappahannock River, so we do know very deep foundations from all the bridges around here. Next slide. So when I came out here in December after a TED call, I went out and took a look at the bridge, and these are just two images here. Really, the one on the left, maybe a little hard to see, but there was kind of brown lines that you're seeing right there. Those are what is called the pre-stressing reinforcing, and the majority of those have fallen out of the bridge. And that was one of the reasons why we worked with town and VDOT to close the bridge due to safety concerns, knowing that various trucks go across the bridge, and we would not want to see a catastrophic incident occur going across there. And plus, you can see kind of where where the concrete is deteriorated on there also. And then this is just me walking around. I was unable to determine how the foundations, the condition of those, but as noted on the left side of that photo, you can see that the retaining wall is leaning over a little bit. And then on the photo on the right, you can see that same image. And I'm gonna go up there and point. You can kind of see that this is starting to slough off a little bit. So there's some definite foundation related issues associated with the whole structure unto itself. So again, that was one of the reasons that I made the decision to close. Next slide. So again, working with Ted, we're trying to figure out, we really got two options. Obviously, we know we want to reopen the marina as fast as we can. That is the most pressing item right here, so we want speed. The economics, Bill spoke to about the economics of the solution that's out there, trying to understand what is the long-term goal out there, understand what are the future geometrics. That's meaning what type of vehicle do we want to be able to support going in and out of here, what type of truck and trailer combination that's out there. And then as far as a temporary solution, we looked at several different options out there. The first one that I just want to talk about is a prefabricated bridge. Some of you all may have heard like a maybe bridge. Bailey Bridge, they're all the same concept. So those are the one out there. It can be fabricated in place. They come in units. They can be purchased or leased. They somewhat can be customized to the site. They are highway rated. Go to the next slide. We were provided some information from Ted in regards to the steel plates, these logging bridges that are out there. The challenge with those is they're not really highway rated. There's really no safety features. You can see the image there on the upper right. There's no guardrail or curb situation, which if we're raising this up as a concern because we don't want a vehicle to drive off the side or someone to be walking even and potentially fall off the side. So that's that one. Portable bridge. This is another version of a bridge on the lower photo that's right there. It's a highway rated bridge. It has railing that's associated with it. It can be also purchased or rented, requires foundation elements. All these require some sort of foundation elements to set the bridge on that's out there. Next slide, please. And then we also have a temporary solution where this is kind of a little bit of a hybrid, pre-stressed concrete. So these will come out in 3 or 4 foot slabs, whatever length we need. The challenge with these is this requires going to a third-party shop, meaning it has to be fabricated by a concrete producer. We have to get what they call shop plans. Something like that would probably take a much longer relative to some of these other solutions. These are highway rated also, but this would require some sort of crane. The challenge with the crane there is that one overhead power line, which I'm fairly confident we could work with the town to de-energize it, but the thing is it's physically in the way of a crane doing any work out there. So this would not be a high on our list to put out there a temporary situation. But keep that image in your mind because this could be a long-term solution with a new bridge going in. And then next slide. And then the last one I kind of looked at was a cast-in-place concrete option. Again, smaller equipment, something that's very easy to be done. We can customize it to the site. This is also a very fast solution, smaller equipment, and we can use standard elements. A lot of highway contractors can do this. So looking at this image right here, I had one of our CAD designers draft up something that this would look like, which is the next slide. So going to a temporary solution to get this reopened quickly, we would be looking at putting any one of those solutions, basically raising up the road, putting this on there, and having some sort of guardrail with a ramp situation to get up and over the bridge. We were not looking at making the full width of the bridge. Again, we're kind of looking at long term, and we want to be able to maintain traffic there at all times. So we were going to put it to one side. This particular image, we show it to, I'm going to call it the east side, because there are water line and a wastewater line on the right side. So we don't want to impact those. We won't be able to get to those in the future in case something were to occur. So this could be something that would look like a solution that's out there. This raises it above the current bridge that's out there, so we have no load actually going on that bridge. So, next slide. So here is what we call a typical section or transverse section. In this particular case, we drew it up about half the width of the bridge. This is something we've worked with you all to determine what is the right width of the bridge that we should put out there. And then also understanding what is the future hold for this. Again, we're just trying to figure these geometrics out, because that's what drives a lot of projects. In this case, it will really drive the project. So you can see it's raised up. Again, it could be any one of those bridges I mentioned there. So you have to kind of imagine it would be like that. Next slide, please. So looking at an aerial view, this is just taken from Google. We're going to have the ramps. Go up here, point. So here's the bridge. It is longer than the current bridge, so we don't put any load on that bridge. There will be ramps on either side to raise up to whatever level that we need. And then we're going to have to work with what the geometry that's here. We'll have, we'll run different types of vehicles, from a truck trailer combination to the emergency vehicles that would get there, to make sure that they can get on this bridge safely and get off. It's going to be a one-lane structure, no matter how we look at this. Again, we're trying to save room for the future. So when we rebuild, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself with this, but we could rebuild this side, shift traffic over here, and then rebuild this side in the future, assuming this is the way we want to go. These are all different elements of the potential project. And here's the aerial. You can kind of see here's the boat ramp, the little dock area, and about the impact that we're looking at here. Again, all these will require some sort of ramp going up, depending on how deep our bridge is. Next slide, please. So I'm going to switch over to long term, because there's a lot of things that are associated with long term that impact the ability to work out here. Unfortunately, permitting is one of the most challenging elements working around the water. There are a lot of what they call time of year restrictions that are out there as far as working in the water. The biggest one is from February 15th through June 15th, the anadromous fish. And then there's also some birds and bats that we have to work around. Those are dependent. Before I left my office today, we did verify there are bald eagles near here, but they're not close enough to have an impact. So that one probably would fall out. The bat, they just have to do an inventory of the bats that are in the area and then go from there. So it's one of those things that as we get further along in this. The other big thing is we have to do permitting with potentially the Coast Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, DEQ, and potentially NEPA. It all depends upon the type of funding that is obtained. If it's all state funding, some of those aren't as stringent. If there's federal funding, there's a lot more stringent elements that are associated with all of the projects. Utilities would have to define the Dominion Energy. We'd have to look at how that line comes in there, what type of easement is it in there, who's responsible for moving that line. There's the water and wastewater that's out there. The water is the towns. Obviously, towns can help work with that. The wastewater is HRSD. We'd have to work through their relocation element in regards to maintaining that. And then you have Verizon and Breeze Line, which serve the area, and we'd have to work with them. And all these things take time and money. The MOT, the maintenance of traffic, as I mentioned, we're looking short-term and long-term. We do something short-term. We don't want to impact the long-term, so the width of the bridge becomes kind of critical. The hydraulics out there that's dealing with the water, we have to look at when we do anything building a highway now. There's what they call impermeable areas. So we have to be able to treat the water, collect it correctly, and that all goes back to some of the DEQ requirements that are out there. Scour, that is what happens when the water is coming in and out of the tide. It'll take away some of the soil that's aerated there in the creek bottom. We have to make sure we design for that accordingly. And that's why you see like the riprap, the stone that's in the upper right corner there. We'd have to put more stone around there just to protect the bridge. So it's not what they call scour. Next slide. The roadway, when I was out there, I noticed that some of the bulkhead was starting to lean in different areas and starting to fail. It's one of the things that we would be wanting to fix that while we're out there. Again, that kind of goes back to the cost and how big of a project does the town want to look at performing. So that's the stabilizing the road, safety elements. I believe there's a lot of pedestrian traffic that they'll use the marina, walk into town. So we want to make sure that we've taken that into account. As regards to the new bridge, there's a lot of new technologies that are out there which will make the bridge last. We designed a 75-year lifespan right now. So we're using what they call corrosion-resistant materials, elements which will not rust. We use what they call low permeability concrete, and that prevents water and moisture from getting in there, which will cause corrosion, which will cause deterioration. We also want something that's economical and fast. I mentioned about geotechnical, that's the soils, deep foundation. These piles are going to be really long, 80 to 100 feet, I'm guessing at this point, which will require very large cranes getting out there. So that becomes part of the challenge also with such a very tight work area ultimately. And then funding comes back to state or federal or a combination or grants. There's a wide variety of funding mechanisms potentially that are out there. I believe, Ted, you said that you were looking at some federal funding last time you and I talked. And I'm not too sure if you've got through the state piece yet or not.
We're in the mix for state and we're in the mix for federal.
Okay, so.
But nothing's guaranteed.
So,
and in both cases, we asked for that 4.4 number.
Okay. And a 4.4 number, to explain that was looking at rebuilding a good portion of the road to where the right-of-way is currently, and for those unaware, that the road to the marina is in a right-of-way easement on private land. Is that correct? So a piece that we're looking at, the direction we're looking at, that essentially the landowner gave us permission to go in there, and then we're understanding that's on the town property on that side. So we have to kind of balance that out. Again, we were looking for the worst case scenario here, and it can all be scaled back. It's one of those things that once we ask for money, it's very difficult to get more money. We found that very much so in everything that we do right now. So easier to ask for more and give back than not have enough and ask for more, because many times that will delay a project significantly. But when it's all said and done, the concept that we have in our mind right now would be a bridge, which is on that lower photo right there. It would be something along that line to go back in the marina. That happens to be down in Isle of White County. That's on the south side of the James River. You go across the James River Bridge on 17, and that's a small little tributary to the James River. So very, very similar to this situation, tidal in and out. Not to a marina, it's inside a neighborhood, but that's about a 50-55-foot bridge. And that's 2 lanes. So that's something that we could look at doing. So I just want to give an example of how we could just have the roadway look on completion. And I think that was my last slide. At that point, any questions?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple. In the letter here, it talks a lot about getting this road and the VDOT acceptance. We don't have any sort of understanding with them if they would pick this road up, right? This is a private road, so we have to be guarded. So they haven't made any sort of indication that they're going to do that, correct?
They would be willing to take that road into the state system if we built it to state standards, and it is far below state standards.
Do we have any sort of like memo from them saying that? I mean, do we have anything in writing? And the reason I ask is, if we're going to build this, I would hate to see us go through the trouble and the expense to build this to state standard, you know, and then have them not adopt it. Now we've got, well, if we had the option to not, you know, save ourselves some money and do it to a lesser private road standard. That to me is the crux of this whole thing. It sounds like a really good, solid proposal, but
Just to answer your question, I can get that in writing, but it's basically going to be the VDOT rules and regulations say you got to have this much right of way, this much sub-base,
Yeah.
this much pavement. So I can get that. I think where there might be some confusion, and I've had confusion, and Jeremy and Annette have kind of helped me through this. There's a state standard for the bridge because it's open to the public. The road is still private. So we can have a private road that's substandard to VDOT, but when the wheels touch the bridge, it's got to be to VDOT standard. And Jeremy, is that pretty much
Right.
right?
So when it comes to bridges, and in the bridge world, there's a lot of challenges because there's a lot of issues. Like in the western part of the state, there's a lot of bridges which go over creeks to get to homes or smaller pieces of property. The challenge is that those require access by emergency vehicles or construction equipment, so it has to be built to a standard. So we follow the ASHTO standard. The VDOT has their own rules. Because
Hey, Jeremy, can you explain the acronym ASHTO?
sure. ASHTO would be the National Code for Building Bridges in the United States. That is the baseline that we can build any bridge to in the United States that could be open to public use. So that sets the type of loading that goes across it. That sets the minimum standards for concrete, steel, and foundation elements. Again, to assure safety to the traveling public. So, and then what we have to do is to design it to one load. Then we do what they call load rating, and that is where we make sure every type of vehicle can go across safely. And that helps protect the public, so emergency vehicles especially go across, that they're built to the correct standard. So then VDOT takes that standard and then they modify it. They will never go less than this ASHTO code, which is the national code. They will put more requirements on top of that to meet based on their historical information of all bridges that are shipped. So they see things that work or don't work, and they say, you will do this, you will do that. So that's where it starts at a baseline, and we got to go a little bit further up. Now, if the bridge is kept private, meaning the town owns it, it's just open to the public, we would just have to meet the ASHTO minimum standard,
Right.
Which is safe. So I don't want to like it's perfectly safe.
yeah, I noticed the precast, like concrete options are on the market. They mentioned ASHTO, but and obviously they're marketed at a private use, public highway sort of environment.
Correct.
Nice farm, subdivision, that sort of thing.
Correct.
And you don't think that one of those would be a good solution?
The ASHTO solution,
Yeah, well, you know, do you think it would be, would one of those work? Save us quite a bit of money, right? And then the bridge is shut, so instead of temping it out, just fix what we got, some sort of prefab thing that we can put in there, or that's not, you're worried about this, it won't meet the VDOT standards if we did that.
So the bridge that's out there now, we're just gonna say, for talking purposes, it's failed. We need all new foundation elements, and we would need to rebuild all that to make a longer bridge. Because we would be building behind the existing foundation elements that are out there, just to ensure that we have good, solid foundation that we build on. And that's where it gets back to when we drive a pile 80-ish feet long, building a foundation, and then opening up more and more. But because we want to build behind there. And I mentioned early on about the 695 bridge. That is a bridge almost very similar length, I think about 22 feet in length. The new bridge going back there is about 50 feet in length. And that is on the Rappahannock River. Oyster Creek kind of flows into kind of a little lagoon area, just like this does. Except on that one, there's an opening on the other side where this one is just one way in, one way out. So you're going to get that ebb and flow of water. So if we open it up more, it does reduce the potential for the tower that I talked about there. And then also opens up maybe to recreation a little bit better. So you get that opening just a little higher, maybe for canoeists, kayakers, they use the area. That answer?
So if the land, excuse me, go ahead, Bob. If the land that the road's on is private, we have to get permission from the landowner to do the work on the south side.
I'm going to defer to the attorney, because the attorney has looked into that.
Yeah.
So, Andrea, do you want to take that question from Mr. Tooney?
I have looked at that, and I do not believe that we have any legal constraints in proceeding.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Thank you.
If we did the temporary fix, is it considerably, I mean, it must be very affordable to do a temporary, and what's the life expectancy of that?
So I'll use the two examples to give you a comparison.
Do you want us to go back to the?
Yeah, let's go back. Keep going, keep on.
These will be temporary.
Yeah. So let's start with this one. I'll go one slide forward, please. So we go with a concrete option like that. Something like that could last 50, 75, 100 years. Like, the concrete today is that good. But that would be considered what we call a solid slab bridge. It's going to go nowhere. We have built some of these in other locations in the state similar to this, and it's going to probably outlast the homes of the area. So, but if we flip back,
That's gonna be hard to get a decent sized boat trailer across, because you're coming off
So-
that ramp, take that turn and funnel into that guardrail, and with that slope on that ramp.
that slope, it may be a little deceiving. It's like about a 1 to 12, so it's a very gradual slope. So, but that goes back to how wide, where the trailer can be turned.
What is
So-
it, all something like this?
Oh,
Somebody,
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So, in the short term, getting a temporary bridge in place, what is the cost and the timeline on that?
so it depends upon which way we go, like concrete versus, I'll call it prefabricated bridge.
Which is the least cost?
Least cost right now, they're probably similar in cost. I couldn't tell you the exact number, and some of it deals with this structure here is permanent, and town will essentially be purchasing it outright because you're buying the concrete, the steel, and the guardrail, et cetera. The temporary steel bridge, if you flip back to one more, the lower right one there, the cost I got this morning, it could be rented or it could be purchased. Not knowing all the specifics, he said to purchase a bridge, purchasing that could be around $50,000. But then you have to consider the roadway work that's associated with it, the labor with the contractor getting that all in there, the shipping of this. That particular bridge comes out of Pennsylvania. It's not terribly far, but they'd have to get it down here. But either case, we're probably looking around $100,000, $150,000 for either one. And a lot of it does depend on how the town will go about a contracting mechanism. Do you go sole source, you just pick a heavy civil contractor, or do we invite three in here, say, okay, please give us your best bid on this?
So, would you be hiring the people to put it in, or would we be doing that?
The town would be hiring.
Okay, and would you provide the engineering specifications?
Yes, we can provide the engineering documents.
And how much might that be?
To do the temporary solution, we're probably talking just thinking hours. And that's the reason I'm waffling is because if we go the prefabricator route, the engineering is not on the firm I work. If we do
people that build the bridge.
The people that build the bridge provide all the engineering associated with that. So while there's the cost to purchase it, there could still be an engineering cost associated with it.
Right, and what would that cost be?
So it's a twofold answer. So with this one right here, I think the total engineering cost could be around $100,000 to $150,000 off.
Okay, and then plus the materials.
And then to install the bridge could be another $100,000 to $150,000. So it could be around $300,000 total to do all in.
But you're talking $450 total worst case, right? And this is, I call this permanent. You're talking
This is
a permanent temporary, I call it aviation permanent. You do a temporary fix, but you never go back and fix it because it works so good. Permanent. So you're talking 75 to 100 years on
No,
a,
permanent. Yeah.
on what's considered a temporary fix.
right. The concrete one, I can definitely say this. The people who manufacture the lower one, he said they've had some of those installed for 40 plus years.
Can a fire truck or a school bus go across?
Yes, they would be designed to handle that.
A loaded water tank would be the concern.
But like the concrete bridge can't go up in 2 months, right?
Concrete bridge could go up probably, once we have the plans ready, depending upon contractor availability, probably within about 2 months also.
So on this, I'm sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, so for the concrete bridge, what would the predicted cost be of something like that?
Similar range, I think,
Okay.
$100,000 to $150,000.
And this obviously does not get us in the VDOT system.
No, this is a town-owned structure.
Right. So on this solution, well, I guess that's part of the engineering. We put one of these temporary bridges in, and you obviously have concerns, and I can see it from my own eyes too, that the footings on both sides are eroding. Your engineering costs would help determine that this permanent bridge is sitting on good dirt.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that.
Yes, we would engineer a foundation for either one of these solutions.
Robbie had a good question. Boat trailers and large trucks that come across them. Can they get over that thing all right, width-wise, all that?
That bottom picture, yeah. Right,
Yeah,
that's
so
not a problem. The top,
That's about 15 feet wide.
yep, that's,
A standard lane by design is 12 feet. And then it kind of goes from there. So that's why we would determine with you all what is the appropriate, what type of boat trailers are coming across. We showed 12 in there. Again, that was kind of splitting the existing bridge in half. But we could go 15 feet, and that would still allow for a 12-foot lane to give a foot and a half shoulder on each side, which would be adequate. And it would be designed to have a loading, which is called HL93, fictitious truck that the federal government came up with. That this encompasses all vehicles, and that would handle everything from a water truck to the propane truck to school buses, the construction equipment. So it would be all encompassed.
So you're gonna push this thing as far to the east as you can. You're gonna have a space that would be open, that people can walk on.
Yes, we could do that.
And what about, is that part, will that have to be part of the construction process? I mean, is that safe now? Or would we have to?
That's something we would evaluate because of the condition of the bridge, just to make sure, because when it comes to pedestrian load, obviously the biggest event is the Oyster Festival, and understanding what type of foot traffic we could expect. When we design a normal pedestrian structure, it's designed to 75 pounds per square foot, which I know is hard to imagine, but imagine square foot, 75 pounds going on there, and probably that one time a year would probably dictate what we could do on there. Alternatively, we could make this wider. We could occupy the whole distance there, minus the area where the water and the sanitation line is, and to say, this is what we're going to keep out here, and it could be out there for 50 plus years. That would be the kind of the inexpensive temporary fix that lasts a very long time.
Yep, good.
A couple of questions.
Yeah.
So with the temporary, we don't have to worry about the time of year restrictions,
That'll be correct, because we'd be doing no in-water work.
okay? Another question would be, and this is, you and I have had this discussion before, but somebody's out there going to ask it. What's the difference between a bridge and a culvert, and why will a culvert not work here?
So this particular location, right now, it is natural waterway that's down there. So the natural bottom of the Urbanna Creek is that area. If we were to put a culvert would be designated as concrete on all four sides. That we'd actually have to countersink that roughly 2 feet. So then it could be maintained as a natural bottom. The problem with that is then you're digging in waters of the U.S., which then impacts permits because you're going to be digging in the water. So then you have to take that into account. And then from that side, it takes more time. It's just not advisable. If there had been a four-sided structure there now, much easier to go back with that. But because right now it's a open bottom, no bottom to that, much more difficult to go that direction. Now they do have what they call three-sided structures, which would be basically concrete wall vertical, horizontal, and then vertical. It's something we would be looking into with this. But again, we still need a deep foundation to support this bridge to be properly designed.
Right.
These are just all options within the iteration of our design.
It's a little concerning to me that we're gonna build a bridge with the cars, trucks, and everything. And I think we need to take a real good look at that walkway to make sure that thing's safe for.
Right.
But, I mean, you might have 50 years for the temporary bridge, but is the walkway can last up? And before that would be something else, put that back.
Well, and I'm thinking with the curve, it might make some sense to make the bridge wider so it'd be easier to accommodate trailers and then not worry about the pedestrians that have it. Not wide enough that they carry all the traffic.
So if a car is going across and it's one lane as opposed to two, is there room for somebody to walk along while a car is going, waiting for the car coming?
It's always been one lane walk.
No,
It's technically two.
Whoa.
Technically two. To answer your question, right now as a design, I would say pedestrians would not be considered a safe environment because it's not wide enough to accommodate that. Normally you'd want at least a minimum of a 5-foot sidewalk that's on there. So in that case, we would want to have a 20-foot wide bridge, 15 feet for single lane, 5 foot for sidewalk, which one we'd probably put up there like flexible sticks to help say, hey, cars stay away from here. It gives the pedestrians kind of a safe haven area.
And what does that cost in Canada? Does that come under the same couple of $100,000?
It would still cover that same range.
Jeremy, just because I'm curious and I've been on the internet, what about like a plate bridge? Which is like, to me, let's say you have a culvert, excuse my language, but, it's got no bottom to it, right? Is that,
So, Victor, I'm thinking, do you like a steel arch?
yeah, like these
bridge.
contact has the multi-plate.
So those are really good in non-marine environments. I don't want to speak ill of
I was just wondering because they got a picture of it over screen, so. I
Yeah,
mean, I know it's not salt water,
Yeah.
but,
So those are constant. There are some metal structures, but those over time will start to fail. Yeah.
and then the dirt starts
Starts to fill in.
great.
And that very last photo I had of the bridge that's mentioned in Iowa County, those were two large metal culverts that were installed. Those were installed in the 1970s, and they didn't even last 50 years. And then they have VDOT had to come in and replace those. So it's one of those things that, yes, could you do that now? Potentially, but long term it will cost.
It's overly cheap solution in your point.
Yes. Yeah, we have replaced a lot of metal culverts for VDOT over the years. We've always gone back to concrete. Because they will.
Mr. Mayor, one more question.
Yep.
Jeremy, regardless of what temporary solution gets laid down for 40, 50 years, okay? What's the town's obligation if the bridge underneath of that fails? In other words, those your tension walls give way, they fall out, everything dumps into the little, tributary flow between the creek and the cove. What is the town on the hook for?
There is the inherent risk that yes, over time that will continue to deteriorate. And that's a kind of a risk-based analysis that we could discuss in regards to how long could that last with no load going on there. We would clean it up, try to make sure it's as safe as possible. But not knowing the foundation over time, as I pointed out that the seawall that's there is already starting to fail. And I do not know how long that's been in place, but yeah, it's one of the things as we're seeing more change in weather patterns and flooding and whatnot, there's a higher likelihood, yes, that could deteriorate faster than the bridge, which is on top. I'm not saying by any means in 5 years, but in 35, 40 years, none of us can predict.
So you can't guarantee that that's something I can pass off to the next administration?
Unfortunately, no, I can.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Sorry.
The weight of this temporary would be on land.
It would be on land. I've already talked to our geotechnical engineer. Trying to reduce it as much as possible. So it's already on firm material. As mentioned, that road's been there at least 100 years, so it's very compacted material. So it has good bearing capacity, is what they call it.
So in between the two, could we put a temporary bridge, but remove the current bridge and fix the foundation? Or do we suddenly hit the $1 million in engineering again?
So there, when it comes to foundations, that is one of the riskiest parts of it. Those are the ones that tend to fail. You hear about those catastrophically. The foundation fails, the bridge will fail. So we don't want that to occur. So fixing an unknown like this would be a risk to the town because we have no idea how deep the foundations are. So we could maybe superficially fix it, but it may not fix the actual capacity of that. Again, I could not get underneath there when I was out here in December. But we have a boat.
Yeah, I've got it. No, I can tell you that you used to not be able to pass under that bridge at all in a canoe, and you can now. And the reason is that the bridge fixed itself because all of that rebar or cable has fallen out, which is scary to me.
Yes, and that's what
You could pass through it 10 years ago or couldn't, and now you can again. It did it on its own.
Yeah.
Taking care of itself. And it is a sand bottom there. I thought it was kind of.
No, I crab out there a lot. I'll be honest. It's after that Miami condo collapse, I stopped standing on that thing. Like I'm a crab on the side because it's bad. Not just sorry, I go on top. But I'm serious. It's very dynamic. It's changed a lot in the 13 years I've been in town.
Yeah, and we've seen that with a lot of bridges. The foundations, again, those are in our business one of the riskiest areas. And the code, I've been talking about the ASHRA code. That's one area where they just keep having more and more requirements. Again, that's where a lot of failures occur in general. I don't want to scare anybody, but that's one of the riskier areas, especially down here in the Tidewater region. It's a lot of sandy material, kind of alluvial material, which is going to kind of come and go with the water. So we get one good nor'easter hurricane, and everything we see can be very different. Yeah,
I know about that.
yeah. So
And there is a significant amount of water that goes through there.
Yeah, it's taxed pretty fast.
right, so that's taking material in and out all the time. And I can speak just personally that I had gone on vacation this past summer, and where I was over in Iceland, and particular location we went, and we went there, and now the whole area is completely gone for a matter of 3 days due to ocean currents coming up there. It's like a 6-foot drop off. So it's the same thing like the Outer Banks. You go out there one time, and all of a sudden there's a 3 or 4 foot drop off on the Outer Banks, all due to ocean. We see the storms come up and down. It's just because
do you know on that opening, the width of that, is that an engineering decision so that you don't ensure that water make it flow too fast, or is that a legal requirement that you have to hit also? Somebody.
The opening, we would size based on the hydraulics. That'd be the flow of the water in and out of the lagoon area that's there.
Yeah.
Going to like the 695 bridge down Oyster Point, beyond Whitestone, that was like a 20-foot opening, and we could see what they call scour, because water from the Rappahannock River would go in and it would come out. And when we're going back, we're putting a significant amount of riprap, stone, all around the corners to try to prevent that from occurring in the future.
So it's an engineering
There's
decision.
an engineering decision based on the flow of the water.
Do you think the current will span wide enough?
That's something we would evaluate as well.
And if we go VDOT standards, I noticed that we have to do safety inspections on those streets. What are we assuming that we built to that stage and VDOT didn't pick the bridge up? Now we're stuck with the bridge. We have to inspect. What's the cost of that?
So based on the standards from the Federal Highway Administration, the bridge will require inspecting every 2 years for every 24 months. And a cost of that, for ballpark figure right now, figure about $5,000.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years.
So, and that's above 20 feet?
Right, because the new bridge will be greater than.
Okay, so whatever we put in there, we're gonna be locked into that $5,000 every 2 years.
Yes. And obviously, escalation cost.
Right,
It would be
right,
more
right.
expensive. And if it deteriorates, that the inspection could become more frequent, because if they start, right now, the bridge, we'll just call it a good condition. But if it drops down to a poor condition, then it requires every 12 months, to make sure it stays safe to travel. But that would hopefully be a long, long time down the road.
That's only if we go into VDOT standard.
Now, this is something that I would recommend to the town to do every 24 months, just so you can keep track of it. So then you have a history, because obviously the bridge will deteriorate, definitively say that. But you can track it and go, okay, well, the first 40 years is really good, and then it started deteriorating, and then you can understand, because you'll be taking out photos and documenting its condition. And one of the things that you do check on a bridge like this would be scour, and we'd be poking around to understand, is that material coming and going more frequently? Are we seeing deeper channels that be created because of the ebb and flow of the water?
You're saying my crabbing report's not scientific.
It should be.
Do you have any idea on this, what the ancillary services are gonna cost? Cause like geotechnical, I guess, with drilling and everything, that's. You said you was working with determinant. Any idea? I'm sorry, I'm jumping around.
No, that's fine. So the costs in there were very ambiguous. I'll be upfront with you. I wasn't too sure what the scope would be. A typical, I'm gonna use an example, if we were to go for a full project doing everything. The survey would be somewhere around $50,000 to $75,000. The geotechnical boring evaluation, probably somewhere around $25,000 to $30,000. So those would be the two third party to my firm. And then we get into the engineering, that it's probably somewhere between 2,000 to 3,000 hours.
2,000 to 3,000 hours?
Yes. Wow. Because the hydraulic analysis is probably somewhere around 300 to 400 hours. A bridge design is probably around 1,000 hours. We got utility design. We'd have the roadway design associated with this, the environmental permitting. That takes a lot of time because you have to coordinate with different agencies. It takes a lot of time, unfortunately.
I'll remind the council about the kayak launch.
Yeah.
This is a lot bigger than a kayak launch.
And that stuff we avoid with the bridge over?
So if you do the bridge over, no permitting, we'd probably do what we call some hand augering on the geotechnical. That's really one of our geotechnical engineers coming down, just doing a quick site assessment, We would not do any hydraulic analysis. It would just be a quick design for, if we go with concrete option, that's, when it's all said and done, probably 250, 300 hours total to do the design, get the plans, and then do a load rating on there so we can say this is safe. I have a feeling, and Ted, correct me if I'm wrong, I have a feeling Annette will ask for a load rating of this bridge. In your conversations, my conversations, so she knows that it's safe for emergency vehicles to go across the bridge, so she doesn't have to put up a red flag.
And so the council knows some of the information that we've been going back and forth with was, and the volunteer fire department was very helpful getting me what is their biggest piece of apparatus and what is its weight, wheelbase length, all that kind of stuff. That's kind of all got to be figured in there as well.
So I understand that the, fire department, their trucks are 80,000 now.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Yeah, I know that what they sent us included everything from wheel length bases to weights, everything.
And what kind of weight does that bottom one handle?
That would be designed, that a fire truck can go across that without a problem. That's encompassed in that HL93 loading, that fictitious loading that's out there.
Oh.
And then as a check of that fictitious loading, when we do load rating, they have what they call Virginia legal loads, which are permitted across all Virginia roads. And they have emergency vehicles. These are the common emergency vehicles that every community has to make sure that they can be out there. So if you're driving around Middlesex County or any county, sometimes you'll see emergency vehicle load weight limits. That's because this has become a new requirement, because what they found is, while it's safe for highway, that a lot of emergency vehicles have very heavy wheel or axle loads that go across. So we got to make sure that those don't cause damage to the bridge.
Is that a parking thing? I see them on bridges and I'm like, I wonder if that means you can't park your fire truck on it.
That would be just driving
Just
across.
don't even drive
Just
across.
the weight of the vehicle with that axle as source.
So I guess just to be clear, I think I've confused myself. Is there an in-between option between going VDOT standards? Is there an option that you all can provide us with between doing a bridge over, which is where I feel we're gonna have a time bomb sitting underneath our preliminary bridge, and not having to go through all of this to go to VDOT standards, where we could pick the foundation and put in some sort of pre-built structure? Is that an option
Yeah,
in between? Is that what I'm asking makes sense?
it does. My recommendation, because the town does not have the funding that's out there right now, that the temporary solution is what we got with right now. That could last 5-10 years without issue. We can make sure it lasts that long. While the town is, say, soliciting the federal government or the state government to try to get funding for the roadway. And then that could last. Well, it gives you guys an idea, what do you think? Even long-range planning, what do you want to do with the marina? You want to have some improvements done. You need to look at that seawall. I don't have any information on that, but it's leaning over. It's eventually going to fail. It's just a matter of when, not if, unfortunately.
Long term, what we want is for VDOT to take it over. So in the planning, it would seem to me, Ted, that we should look at every aspect in regards to that road, what would have to be done to do it. Because that will change 50 years from now, I know, but if we had it on record map, it might help somebody 50, 60 years from now. I know we can't do it, but that's gonna be there for a long time.
What, I don't know, to do VDOT standards, are we just talking about the bridge, or are we talking about the roadway all the way from the paved road at the condominiums there all the way to the marina?
Right, from the end of the current road right-of-way, the public right-of-way, all the way to the town property line that's on the marina side.
We'd have to build the whole thing.
Yes.
We can't do that, but that might be something they can do down the road. That's what needs to.
I feel like we're waiting for the money cloud to come up with that option. We were waiting on that on the water system too. Wait
No.
for money to show up, it doesn't just show up.
No.
I'm afraid that I don't want to kick the can down the road, because, 5 or 10 years is not that long. And we'll be right back here again. That's my concern with this, is we'll take the temporary fix, run with it, again, permanent, then it's permanent, and then that thing starts to fail at the foundation. Like you said, washes out in a hurricane or something. Now we're back to closed bridge.
For perspective, we're working on projects right now, which are not gonna be advertised till 2031, 32, 33. An extreme example is the Norris Bridge. I'm sure you all are very familiar with that. I've been working on that bridge since 2001, trying to repair it. And in about 2003, we said that bridge has about 40 years worth of life left. Here we are 20 plus years later, and we're starting to get around to planning to replace that. But you all have seen the cost estimates also. And every year we keep going by, that just keeps escalating up. So, yes, to your point, we could plan right now and give you all a planning level estimate, say, okay, we go from end of current right away all the way through here. You'd have to get the right of way, what is the roadway width, bring up the VDOT standards. We can give you that number, and then just understand that it just escalates every year.
So I'm clear on this, the least expensive way we can do this is $300,000.
In that ballpark, yes.
And that's a 40 or 50-year fix.
It could be.
But what were you talking about, 5 or 10? Were you talking about the bridge?
Just saying,
now?
whatever we do now,
Uh-huh.
it could be a 5 or 10 year fix till the town acquires the money, or it could last a lot longer. But there are a lot of environmental elements which we can't predict. The foundation could
Because
fail.
that bridge underneath of the temporary is gonna be.
It could fail, which then the foundation that we're putting our temporary bridge on could fail
The temporary bridge will probably be fine, but it's gonna sit on
on poor soil.
dirt.
Right.
Larry, what was the number that he gave you?
300,000.
That's a temporary bridge.
Temporary bridge sitting on the
That
current.
includes engineering?
Bridge
That would include the engineering. And those are based on numbers right now. I can't guarantee what a contractor, heavy civil contractors right now are very busy. So trying to get them in here, and unfortunately, when there's a higher priority or emergency situation, those costs will come in higher. I try to take that into consideration in my numbers, but I can't guarantee what they would ultimately charge.
But it's better than 4.4.
Yes, and again, that was for everything out there to give you all an idea, kind of really upset.
As well as something to ask for.
Yes.
So it's 300 with another plus the
Bridge
construction.
engineering, site work.
So we're on the 300,000.
And then what costs to build it?
That would be
That'd be
engineering, the construction, a temporary bridge, whether it's steel or concrete.
Right.
That is
300.
the bridge and the engineering.
300,000. That's what I'm hearing.
If we go in between options, I know we're putting it in spot, but we rip out the current bridge, we fix the ends of the bridge, and we put in some sort of non-VDOT compliant, but the standard structure option.
That gets a little challenging because we could do a foundation element behind the existing bridge. We do that all the time. We're moving of the existing bridge gets into water. Yeah, and that's where permitting starts.
Yeah, as soon as we start messing with that old bridge in the water,
Ballpark though? I mean, how much do we save not going to VDOT standards? I guess is what I'm gonna hit now.
From a bridge standpoint,
Keeping it under the survey.
20 is the minimum by federal standard. I would highly recommend that kind of still inspect the bridge every 24 months, just to document and you can understand, because while we will engineer everything, it can be built, there still could be a problem with material or foundation element, which is just unforeseen. So you want to keep track of that, because you can see that occurring and then fix it so something like this does not occur. The liability.
But I mean, Any idea, like if we went underneath with, again, back to what I just asked, if we would just fix the foundations, put in some sort of recast thing, you don't think we're saving much of anything?
I think there's a roadway element associated with them. And again, you flip back to the last photo, please. Or actually that one, flip this one right here. You can see right here, that's already starting to fail.
Yeah.
And this is what I worry about is down the road that one good storm could come in here, that could fall over, then that could fall over. That concrete right there, that is older than 1970 concrete. That I'm guessing is 1940s, 50s concrete.
Well, if the temporary bridge is from land to land and that starts falling in, I mean.
There's a risk.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Why
Yeah.
can't we just have somebody go down there and pick concrete out of the water and haul it off?
You can do that, but the problem is the road may start deteriorating away. So there are still risks. I don't want to sell it on the solution. There are still risks associated with the temporary solution. Even though I did show that all the way to one side, we need to come down here and do a proper evaluation to make sure we're not seeing a concern. When I did walk the site, I'm gonna call it the west side, like where the sanitation line is coming through there, I noticed some depressions in the grassy area that's right there. That means you're losing soil there right now. Water's somehow getting underneath there and undermining it. So I gotta say the caveat, this is my best solution at this point. I need to do a full evaluation because we don't want to put something out there that could fail in a year. I mean, none of us want that.
Any other questions, Robbie?
I think I've exhausted myself in.
And just to emphasize the point, these pieces right here, you see, yeah, that's all the concrete that's falling down here. This is falling down from whatever this foundation element is that's right here. So stuff is falling from that bridge. I think a temporary solution gives the marina reopen, gives us time to understand what can we do. Besides the federal, just straight out like asking for money from the federal or state, there's a lot of grants that are out there also. We have people who understand that way better than I do and understand where you can find grants. And sometimes that could be part of a solution here. You get a $2 million grant here, you get some money from the state, some money from the federal. Most projects that you see out there today are a combination of funding that are out there. It's just not one sole source.
Is that, I didn't see that spelled out on here, but
That I did not include that. That's something that could
that would be
again
another service.
Yeah. I kind of wrote that to give an idea of where we're at. Normally, I would have like a full line item of tasks and hours that are associated with it. This is based on my best guess stuff we've done recently, as far as the scope is concerned.
Question, Ted. If we could get the right of way, everything the right size, and build it to VDOT standards, didn't you say VDOT would take it over?
VDOT told me if we built it to VDOT standards, they would take it over.
Long term, which, but possibly.
You're dealing with I think it's like a 20-foot easement in there right now, which goes through private property. So there's acquisition.
It's not wide enough, right?
It's not wide enough. You can't go to if you're driving to the marina, you can't get anything to the right. It's got to be to the left.
Right, and the pipes are right at the fence.
And the pipes are, so you got to move utilities. Because you can't have the utilities in the right of way.
We're talking long term, but something like,
We're talking long-term and property acquisition from the Montagues and all kinds of
they
things.
may not be there.
Yeah, you're right.
There may be somebody there who wants to do something fine.
The town probably won't, in 30 years.
That would be a crime. We lost that one.
Mr. Junie, I wrote
Moving
down
on.
some other things if you'd like to hear those too.
No, we do.
I'm sorry, you,
I said I wrote
mean, you
down,
have to have
I wrote down
the
some other
other end.
potential costs, if you'd like to hear those too.
He promised we will speak it out.
we don't fight about it.
All right. Any other questions? All right.
Oh, wait, I have a question.
There you go.
The temporary, you said for rent or purchase, the price you gave us of a couple of $100,000. What is the purchase price of that temporary and with the rental, and does that come under that cost?
So the green bridge that I showed a couple slides in, yeah, that one right there.
Uh-huh.
The cost to rent that was, let's see, about $115 a day for the first 3 months, and then like $100 a day beyond that. But then I said, well, and I just think, well, what if it's out there for 18 months? And you're better off just purchasing the thing outright.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
as soon as you put those numbers up there,
It was like,
you can eat up $100,000 pretty
Yeah,
quick.
yeah.
the raw cost of the bridge was in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $50,000 for purchase, based on my very limited conversation of length, width, and what my product would be.
So that was in your estimated ballpark figure of, okay.
That does not include the transporting down here, setting the bridge, getting a foundation, all their kinds of elements.
Does that still come under the 300,000, 350? So you were given pretty much an all-encompassing ballpark figure.
Okay.
And the one other thing, with the temporary bridge, you can see that that's kind of gravel roadway there, sample photo I have. We'd probably be looking at doing asphalt. You will have asphalt maintenance costs associated with that. Right now, I believe the town handles, the VDOT handles the town's roadway maintenance, like asphalt and whatnot. So that would be an expense the town would have to bore every so many years, just because having the vehicles go across that will wear that asphalt out. So rule of thumb, every 5 to 7 years is probably have to do some sort of asphalt work, assuming it's out there that long.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you so much.
Okay. I think that's got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on. Public comment. Start with time.
I will attempt to be brief, and this is modified by a lot of what has been said, what I'm going to say. I'm Roy Kime. I'm a resident of the town of Urbanna. I live at 270 Howard Street. I'm the former zoning administrator of the town, and I've helped the town treasurer with budgeting and finance for the town. In those capacities, I am familiar with the marina, the access road to it, and the bridge over the entrance to Jameson Creek. In the very early stages of this new bridge project, I was asked if I would be interested in being the project manager. I indicated that I had some interest, but that was before the specifications were developed. As those specifications have developed, I'm no longer interested in being the project manager. The contract you were considering calls for engineering and of a bridge built to VDOT specifications. We don't need to pay for engineering studies for such a bridge, which is not necessary and will never be built. I'm sure that the Whitman firm could deliver what the contract calls for, but this is not what we need. We don't need a bridge capable of handling 2 fully loaded log trucks traveling at highway speeds going into the marina. The access road and bridge are on private property and not state maintained, as we've discussed. It's more like a driveway into your house. You don't need VDOT approval to resurface your driveway. I don't know what the requirements are for public access for a bridge and I think that should be investigated. We need a single bridge capable of handling one vehicle at a time with no more weight than a fully loaded fire truck tanker. We have a propane tank truck that goes in there occasionally, but that's about it. We could post a weight limit on the bridge like we have now, if we're concerned that the weight limits are a problem. The marina generates about $25,000 a year in net income. For this contract, the design contract, or the design costs are $750,000, and contract oversight is another $150,000. So that would be $900,000. So it would take 36 years of marina profits just to pay for the engineering work, and that's not any actual construction. There are alternatives which should be pursued, and by some comparison, we built a pool for $1.2 million and dug a well for $1.2 million. That included all the engineering and all the contract work, and both those are designed to last for quite some time. I don't think we can afford, the town can afford this contract. If the state or Fed comes in with some money, that's real helpful, but I wouldn't hold my breath on that. I would suggest the mayor appoints a committee of the council to explore other alternatives and to look into the bridge requirements for public access. Thank you.
Mr. Putney.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I'll be real quick too. I had a meeting yesterday, well, not a meeting, but I talked to Ted yesterday, and I reminded him approximately 5 or 6 years ago that there was a dredging project in Urbanna Creek, and they drove those tractor and trailers and trucks across that bridge with that loaded silt. Now, I don't know whether that was a town project, county project, BMRC, whatever, whose ever project that was. I don't know if that may have caused the deterioration of the bridge now, but that was well over 1,000 pounds, 10,000 pounds. And that project went on, I know some of y'all remember, for weeks. So, if that was private entity somewhere or whatever, maybe there's some, hey, some repercussions there. You can say, hey, this is what we got now. So maybe there's some money out there to get that, depending on who authorized it, how it was done, who signed off, that sort of thing. Just wanted to remind you guys of that.
Okay, thanks, Tammy. Lisa Powers.
I had questions, but they've been answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, I was surprised you weren't going to say it. Yeah, I'll put your name. It is Mayo 390. 320.
You don't know
Yeah, I know it's Rappahannock and I can't spell it.
It's in Urbanna.
I know it's in Urbanna.
All right, in 1957, it's a 2.1 mile bridge called Urbanna Road. 22 million for the cost. I know everything is going up. But build a bridge from here, that walls will cost $5 million or 4.5%. I think something's wrong. We need to get more people in here and explain we're building bridges instead of just one fellow. He did a good job. I thought it was a good presentation. But that doesn't save us any money. And I think we got a guy from Waterview who does this for a living. And he also works for Seventeen. And he's really good and expert. And if you get a hold of him, let him come in, present too. This will do no vote and everything tonight. I think a lot's got to be looked at. What you want to do, if you really want to mess up, put a bridge in. Go beyond the parking lot, put your channel of water running in there, put kayak down there. You know, where by the bridge.
Are you talking about Abernathy?
Yeah, you know, if you go across, where the parking lot is, water running across that there.
No, I mean,
Yes,
Abernathy is Waterview.
is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to get in there and.
we have talked
I've talked to
yeah. Yeah, thanks.
And do you know what he said, Billy? He said, we need to get an engineer to look at
He is.
it. All right. Any response from anything?
I can tell you. On the bypass, I call it the bypass option. I talked to, actually, he came to me, former town employee about that. He said that, and there's nothing in the town record because it never became formal, but that was suggested by an engineer that came down somewhere in the late 90s, early 2000s. He came down, looked at the bridge, and he was trying to find a low-cost option. He suggested that. I followed up on that a little bit. I have contacted BMRC to start with because it's a permitting thing, and obviously we have to acquire land on the other side of that split rail fence to do it. I mean, there's a lot there, but to Mr. Mayo's point, that you could, I mean, that would give us good access to get small boats in and out of there, and if we could get rid of Havner Bridge, I think that's worth at least investigating.
Now, what are you talking about?
So they cut a canal on the other side, where the fence poles, or the fence is at, past the little kayak launch.
I understand that used to be the inlet, that's where the water.
It's an idea. I have no, to me, honestly, it sounds a little nutty, but it also sounds intriguing, and I don't know if it's a possibility, but it would be nice to find somebody that could tell us. Because then we get rid of a bridge structure, and we'd open up the backside of the marina there to small boat traffic, and they get a nice protected area.
Right, and that's something, I know Bill Height talked about that for as long as I've been on council.
Yeah, and I don't know where to start. I didn't call the MRC guy. Honestly, I was afraid of, starting a problem for us by talking to him. But I have looked into that recently. Heard that before.
Yeah. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you all for coming.